Hi guys, Rubinaka here. Imagine a scenario where you're visiting a doctor for some kind of a sickness. What do you think doctor will start doing to begin with, to end with, and in between? He probably will ask you a ton of questions to know about your illness and the past history of your illness. He will do a physical examination and he will order a bunch of diagnostic tests to do a thorough diagnosis. Unless he does a thorough diagnosis, he can't plan his care, including hospitalization. So, if you are admitted in the hospital, he will also be planning post discharge planning in terms of medication, nutrition, therapies, and so on and so forth. Now, let's come to the childcare institute. A child is about to be admitted to your childcare institute. You know nothing about this child. How do you expect to meet this child's needs? Well, that's what today's video is all about, called individual care plan. Before we go into this video, I have few disclaimers to make. I will be going back to this imaginary scenario that I just talked to you about, patient visiting a doctor. In our video also, we will be going back to that to just to compare how we have to take care of our children in the children's home using that scenario. Second thing is, if you have any kind of queries or questions or topics about JJ Act, and if you like for me to answer them for you, please do write to me. I would love to make videos, especially pertaining to JJ Act. So write to them in the comment section below, and I will make videos for you. And the third disclaimer is I will be referring to this individual care plan as ICP. So anytime you hear me refer to ICP, please understand that I'm talking about individual care plan in JJ Act. I have a super trick to share with you as a last disclaimer. If you watch till the end of this video, I'm going to tell you something very nice about how you can make your work so much easier in terms of filling out this ICP. If you have been filling out this ICP, you know how difficult it is. But this idea that I'm going to share with you make it so much easier. So watch till the end of this video and you'll get the trick. First, let's look at the definition of ICP. It has primarily four components. First component of ICP is, what is ICP? ICP is a development plan. Remember the imaginary scenario that we talked about? You went to a doctor and doctor asked you all kinds of questions and did examination and ordered diagnostics to make a proper diagnosis so that he can make a care plan. Imagine a child has come to you and you are developing a plan, but this plan is called as development plan because child is growing, and according to his growing needs we have to develop a plan called development plan. And it is no ordinary development plan but a comprehensive development plan. Comprehensive means you're going to factor in as many variables as you possibly can to make this development plan inclusive and effective. Second component of ICP is for who this ICP is meant for. ICP is meant for any child. Remember, in JJ Act, child is referred to as any individual that has not attained the age of 18 years. And any child who has come in contact with the JJ system. That means a child could be in need of care and protection. A child could be in conflict with the law but needs an institutional care services. So if either group of these children needing institutional care, ICP is a required document. So this ICP has to be filled based on their age, their gender, their past history, and in consultation with the child and the family members of the child. Third component of ICP is the objective. Why do we have to do this ICP? It is to restore child's self-worth, dignity, and self-esteem so that we can nurture him to become a complete and balanced and total citizen to the community that he may choose to live in. And the last component in the ICP definition is the list of needs that you and I, as the administrators of Childcare Institute, to address. And that list includes health and nutrition needs, including special needs, emotional and psychological needs, education and training needs, leisure and creativity and play, protection from all kinds of abuse, neglect, and maltreatment, restoration and follow-up, social mainstreaming, last but not the least, life skill training. So who has to fill out this ICP? JJ Act and JJ rules are very clear about who can fill out these forms. It can be done by a social worker who has a master's degree either in sociology, social work, psychology, child development, or with 7 years of experience in child education, child development, and child protection services. All these three individuals, social worker, caseworker, child welfare officer that I just told you that can fill out the ICP, refers to childcare institutes run by NGOs. But if an institute is run by government, the individual who will be filling out this ICP is a probation officer. If you are wondering about this ICP form, the form number is 7 and it is available in the latest Juvenile and Justice Model Rules. And I'm also making the Word file of this ICP in the description box below. Feel free to download it, feel free to use it. Now we are coming to the meaty part of the ICP. ICP has 4 different sections. 2 sections related to admission, 2 sections related to discharge. Remember, 2 sections are related to admission and 2 sections are related to discharge. So the 2 sections related to admission can be considered like this: before the admission, after the admission. Now 2 sections pertaining to the discharge can be considered like this: before the discharge, after the discharge. That is it. There are 4 sections: A, B, C, D. A and B related to before the admission, after the admission. Now C is before the discharge, D is after the discharge. If you know this much, I think you know most of the ICP form. Now, you have collected all the information when you sat with a child, sat with the child's family, got his history, you got the information from other staff members, other children. So all the information is with you. Now you are going to do 2 things. One is, child is at point A, you want him to go to point B, right? So point B would be considered as your goal. Point A would be considered as the baseline. Today he is at point A and you want him to go to point B. That is your goal, main goal. Let's say your CWC has given an order for this child to be in rehabilitation stay. Rehabilitation stay in JJ Act means the child is going to stay for an extended period of time in your childcare institute. If so, you need to have this goal. Once you set the goal, you have to determine how are you going to guide this child to go from point A to point B is called as daily activity planning. Let's say, for example, you have identified that this child has some psychological needs. So today you have identified this child has some psychological needs, this need to get better. So you have determined that he has to reach this point, right? So how do you plan to go from here to here? You probably want to have a counselor visit him at a frequent intervals. You want him to see a psychiatrist. You want him to go to the mental health facility. All these activities, and also including the staff training, what are all the things that you want the staff to do? All these things are called as daily activity planning. So point A is your baseline, point B is your goal, and in between what takes place in activity planning. Now I told you that ICP form number 7, used to collect all the data from the child's family, past history, your staff, your children that he's interacting with, and you start to fill out your ICP. But when you set the goals, you use another form called rehabilitation card, form number 14. So it is showing you baseline, and this is showing you the goal. ICP is a baseline, rehabilitation card, form number 14 is your monitoring tool or goal. Once you reach this goal, then again you want to go to the other goal, so that already reached goal becomes the ICP again. Then you upgrade the goals on your rehabilitation card, form number 14. If you are running a children's home, you know that you have to conduct something called home management committee. Home management committee includes variety of people that are involved in JJ system at your district level, and these are the people who will be visiting your home on a quarterly basis, and it is they who will review the ICP planning, and you can change the ICP goals in consultation with your home management committee. ICP has to be done every fortnight in the first 3 months, which means in the first 3 months, you ought to have 6 ICPs filled out. And from there on, it is every month till the child is discharged. Let me give you one small test. Let's say a child has stayed in your childcare institute for 10 years, which means he has stayed for 120 months, right? So in the first 3 months, you have to do every fortnight, which means you have 6 ICPs filled out. Now, out of the 120 months, you subtract 3. So you have 117 months left for which you will be doing every month ICP. So 117 plus 6. 123 ICPs ought to be there by the time a child who stayed in the children's home for 10 years and is about to be discharged. Only then you can prove that you have really followed up with this ICP planning. Remember, I told you that you have a baseline and then you have a set goal. So from point A to point B, you have a daily planning. Daily planning activity includes training of your staff, training of your children, and setting up these activities in such a way that that particular need that you wanted to address will be addressed on a continuous basis. And these daily activities can also be reviewed and changed according to the needs that are changing in the child. So if your daily planning requires that the child needs special educators, you may have to make arrangements, whether in-house or you can send him to a special education school where the special educators are available so that the child receives what he or she needs. ICP can also be used to group children together. Let's say, for example, you have a children's home with 25 children capacity, and you have identified 5 children of the same kind. You can group them together so that you can plan your activities collectively so that your services are optimized. For example, you can't have a teacher for every child. So these 5 children could have a very specialized teacher who would be providing specialized services. So you can use this ICP for grouping. Remember, I told you that there are 4 sections in the ICP: A, B, C, D. C and D pertaining to discharge. C is before the discharge, D is after the discharge. If your child is about to be discharged from this childcare institute, your section D should contain how you're going to follow up with this child. Because once the child leaves the institute, how are you going to follow up? Do you want to visit him personally? Do you want to do it over the phone? And whatever you may find out through your follow up communication, you need to document in the ICP for some time. I want to share one important aspect here. JJ Act considers children's home as an institute. So they do not want these children to stay in the children's home for very long. You need to explore, as an administrator of a children's home, non institutional care services like adoption, foster care. So, for example, if you identified a child who could be placed in foster care, apart from what you find out on individual care plan document, that is Form 7, child's views also need to be considered before such children are placed in foster care. Your documents may be saying, your heart may be saying that this child would be better served in a foster care, but what if the child absolutely resents going to foster care? You ought to consider his views and factored in before CWC could make a decision to move him from a children's home to a foster care. Before I end my video, as I told you, I have one super trick to share with you. Remember, I told you I have made a Word file of this individual care plan Form 7, and put it in the description box below. What I want you to do is this: do not start writing ICP with a pen on your ICP form that you would download from JJ Rules, because the space available on that form will be very, very small to write as much as you want to write. So what I made is a Word form that you can fill out online on the computer, I mean. So you can fill out as much as you want. As you know, the table expands as you fill out more, which means you will not be restricted in filling out this form. So you can write as much as you want to write and then get a printout and put it into the case file of the child. I hope you like this video. If you like it, please give me a like, share it, and more importantly, don't forget to comment and subscribe to this channel.